This video is about what I do on a new location as a landscape photographer. Why am I here and why have I chosen this location? I was checking the weather, as you can see here, and there are no clouds anywhere. And my idea was that I'm using the golden hour to find nice, interesting lighting conditions because there is nothing interesting going on in the sky. I'm currently at this location and the almighty Instagram algorithm pushed my interest towards this location, and I was thinking, hey, maybe this Instagram reel is a good way to improve my process to find new landscape photography locations, because I think habits are a good thing. In general, I ended up doing the same thing every year and I got a little bit fatigued of visiting the same locations every time, and after I was going through my pictures, the pictures ended up very similarly. So I just hope that I find something interesting today. Some thoughts about scouting woodland. Because in the deep woods, it's really hard to see the actual sun. During sunrise, it's not the best idea to be directly in the woods. So you should go to the edge of the woods and try to see a line of trees that is actually being hit by light. In a few hours, when the sun is a little bit higher, then the sun will enter the actual woodland. But even if I find the nicest composition inside the wood, there wouldn't be any light because the sun is still very low at the horizon. Therefore, I just walked straight to the edge of the forest. I used satellite images from Google Maps, which are not always reliable because sometimes they're really old. I found a nice line of trees. The foreground is hideous, and I'm switching to my 70 to 300mm lens and try to take a picture of the top of the tree being hit by the light and hope for the best of it. Even if I can't find a nice picture, today's topic is scouting a new area, and the main goal is finding ideas what to do at a certain point in time. Even if I'm lucky and if I'm at the right location at the right time, maybe get a nice picture out of it. As you can see, my face is still pretty dark and I really need to adjust the shadows in post-production. However, I think I find a nice composition, and the idea I'm going for is there are two birches in front of a line of trees that is being hit by light and is therefore colorful. And I try to go, Guten Morgen, talking about not being easily visible. I just met a nice and friendly hunter that reminded me that next time I should just wear a high visibility vest in order to prevent me from being involved in an accident. Okay, that being said, let's go back to the composition. I'm trying to take a picture of two dominant birches that are in the foreground and in front of a nice colorful canvas, and therefore go for a contrast in color. That is my idea to make the composition interesting. And now I'm showing you how I actually found the composition. This is what my camera is actually seeing. I'm going to pan a little bit to the right, and maybe you have an idea which trees I'm talking about, but this is the frame I was looking for before I even adjusted anything with my camera. Now the trees are somewhat in the foreground, and all that's left to do is increase the zoom. Since the sky is completely devoid of clouds, I try to exclude it out of the composition, because instead of taking a picture of a boring sky, I just exclude it out of my composition. This is the aspect ratio of my composition, and I was trying to put the actual composition line, like either the golden ratio or the rule of thirds, between the birches in order to make the composition a little bit more interesting. You don't always need to put your actual subject straight at the line of the composition. I am going for a balance between both subjects and use the empty space between them to draw the viewer's eye. The longer I'm staying here, the more I like the actual picture, and I think the idea of taking a picture of a dominant tree that's not being hit by light while everything else is, end up to be an interesting idea. So all that's left to do is press the shutter button and you can leave a comment whether or not you actually like the picture I just took. Well, hindsight is 2020 after all, and I really dislike this picture compared to actually taking it, because I think I failed at separating the subject from the background. And this is because the dark part of the birch is directly in front of the dark part of the background, so my initial idea doesn't really work out. And here is another crop I show you just to stress the point that I really tried to make it work, but hey, not every picture you're going to take is ending up in your portfolio. Let's go back to the video. The interesting part of scouting a new area is that you have no idea what there's going to be. And while the sun is currently rising around me, if you look to the left and to the right, it's getting brighter and brighter. And I think here in the swamp might be a nice composition to look for. But the question I have to answer now is at what time there will be interesting like here, so next time I can be here in time to take a nice picture. The sun is rising and is hitting the trees to my right, because this swamp is surrounded by trees. The only way to get the actual interesting trees in the swamp hit by light is when the sun is either very high or right now when a lost ray of sunlight is just finding its way. And right now I'm trying to find this lonesome sun ray to guide my composition. This swampy area is really messy and I don't think I found a nice composition, but I think I can talk a little bit about how my compositions are being guided by the light, because the hardest thing I needed to learn while I was learning landscape photography is realizing when the light is actually nice. And one thing you can do if you have no idea where to shoot is just look for what the light is currently accentuating naturally. So in order to figure out what is being hit by light, a real good trick is to just underexpose your camera in order to figure out what is currently being highlighted by the sun. And this is what my camera sees. I'm currently at -2 EV. If you want to learn something about EV, you can just check out my older video. And I'm using my aperture to decrease the exposure. And right now I'm really dark. And fortunately it's already too late and the tree isn't actually being hit by light anymore. So I need to go back home and talk about it in Lightroom. If you are in the woodlands, there are certain images that are just popping up everywhere, and while I was going for an interesting picture where the light is hitting a single element, I was going for a picture where the light wasn't hitting a single element, and now I'm going for another really apparent and really available picture when you're in the woodlands, namely backlit leaves. And right now on my camera screen I'm on my 28 to 75 millimeter lens, and you see this huge, massive tree. While I think this composition you're seeing right now on my camera might be an interesting picture, yeah, I'm actually trying to go for this frame in order to really emphasize the backlit trees. And in order to achieve this, I just need to really zoom into the picture. And then I'm trying to use the massive tree to frame the actual picture. As you can see, it's currently really dark if you're in the shadows and really bright if my face isn't in the shadows. And this is what my camera sees, and I'm just trying to fine-tune the composition. I don't think a 16:9 composition would be the trick, but if I zoom out a little bit, I think this is the frame I'm trying to go for. And in order to achieve this, I am trying to be aware of my borders and trying to give the left and the right border the same space to breathe in order to transfer the sense of symmetry. And this is a puzzle I can't really solve. I think the ratio of the illuminated leaves to the actual trunk is not high enough. Using the tree as a frame doesn't work out because the actual subject, the illuminated leaves, are way too small with the focal range and distance combination I was going through. And while I was about to pack everything back in my camera bag, I just tried to use my 20mm lens for shits and giggles, and mainly because I was trying to start recording a little bit of B-roll for this episode today. But after I used my 20mm lens on the camera and was still framing the same tree, this is what my camera sees. And the branches and the shadows mimicking the actual branches is something that's really, really interesting. And the drama with the sun and everything is something I really like. And I figured out that if you use a very wide angle lens and if you show a lot of stuff in the frame, it doesn't really matter that everything is cluttered and there are so many branches and there's so much stuff going on, because it's way too small to actually affect the composition. And while this is a dead center comp and this is nothing really special, this is still the image I like the most. And I'm going for a 4:3 composition. I'm trying to stop down and I'm trying to figure out how I can introduce sun stars to the image. But in order to do this, I really need to work the scene as long as the sun is still at a similar height. Today's session was interesting, to say the least. After a friendly hunter reminded me of getting a high visibility vest the next time I'm out in the woods during twilight, during hunting season, I rather wear a high visibility vest instead of getting shot, because that's not my cup of tea, to be honest. And we talked a little bit about what I'm doing on new location, and I think the area is so huge, it's impossible for me to cover the entire area on one single day. And since I haven't planned for such a huge trip, I rather return later this week or in a few days or in a few weeks, because I need a power bank, I need more food, and I need more water to drink. I'm awake since 4 a.m. and instead of really pushing through my tiredness and instead of really forcing it, I rather enjoy hiking, I rather enjoy landscape photography. And if you enjoy my landscape photography, you feel free to subscribe to my channel and leave a comment. And if you want to stay informed what I'm up to, just subscribe to the channel. While I don't think that the pictures I took today are candidates for my calendar this year, I think we talked about a lot of useful stuff, like how I compose the image and why I choose to take a particular image. Like, you can use the absence of light or the availability of light in order to guide your composition. That being said, see you next week. Bye.